right, today we're gonna do bench press. I'm warming up. Light dumbbells, lots and lots of reps. You got something special in store for you today, and that is an in-depth bench press tutorial where I'm gonna teach you the technique that I use. And this has done huge things for my bench press strength, my upper body development, as well as my ability to coach people at the highest level. So this bench press technique is going to make you stronger, bench press more muscular, protect your shoulders, all of those good things. And I'm giving it to you for free, you're welcome. Starting off with my warm-ups, all I'm doing is a push-pull. So dumbbell press with a light weight, lots and lots and lots of reps. Lat pull down with a light weight, lots and lots and lots of reps. The reason why I like a lat pull down is because this part here, the position my shoulder blades are in here, is the exact position that we're going to use for the entire bench press. So when I do a lat pull down, my shoulder blades move forward and back and forward and back. But in the bench press, I want them here the whole time. Okay, I want them back and down towards my back pockets the whole time. So that's what my back looks like when I bench, is I'm arching, shoulders back and down, and that's how I do it. That's how you do it. But we also position our body in a way, so legs. So I'm going to teach you about leg drive. And the way that I leg drive isn't really leg drive. I call it cranking the arch, right? So the way that I position my legs for stability, but also to position my body correctly to press as much weight as possible, as safely as possible. Today, my plan is to bench press 160 kilograms for 10 reps. Last week I did 2 sets of 10 on 155, so I got up by 5 kilograms. I should be able to do it, except I squatted pretty heavy 2 days ago. My arms are killing me, which is why, you know, I know like 160 kilograms is heavy, but for me it's a light day. So my heavy day will be around 200 kilograms. So this is my rep work, and yeah, 160 for 10 is the top set. If it's comfortable, I'll do 2 sets of it. Okay, how many warm-up sets do I do? I'm going to warm up to my first top weight. My first warm-up weight. So I'm going to start over on the bench press with a red plate on each side, which is 70 kilograms. So I did 25. So I'm going to work to the exact same weight, which is going to be 35 kilogram dumbbells. So I can do that now. So 35 plus 35 equals 70. When I do a warm-up set on this is like the 3rd or 4th set. Right, so this is going to be the exact weight that I'm going to be starting with the barbell. So technically, like, I'm pretty warm now. I'll do one more set of lat pull downs, and then I'm going to stop doing the lat pull downs. So a lot of the times when I program for other people, even myself, when I'm not going super, super heavy, I'll do a push with a pull. So I'll superset. It's called opposing muscle supersets. And the advantage of doing that is you get to have twice the amount of work in the same amount of time. So instead of just doing a bench press and resting for however long, you get to do a bench press and rest for half the time and do the opposing muscle group and then have the same amount of rest. So it's like push, 2 to 3 minutes, pull, 2 to 3 minutes, push, 2 to 3 minutes, pull. So usually, that's a really effective way of training because it's non-overlapping muscles, so it's not hugely fatiguing. So you can normally bench press the same amount and row the same amount with less rest. So that's the benefit of supersets, nothing else. It's just a time saver, which is a great thing. But right now, whenever I want to go heavy, even though I said it's non-overlapping muscles and it's not hugely fatiguing when you're doing opposing muscle supersets, there still is some fatigue. And when I'm coaching, either training myself or coaching a high-level bencher, if they're doing a big bench press set, I'll make sure that we do take the time. So instead of supersetting with a push and pull for my first exercises of the day, I'll just do bench press as a standalone. So that's me. Did I just do a set of pull downs? I have to do them? Thank you. See that? I get sidetracked. The purpose of this is just to warm up my shoulders nicely. And then no more pull downs. I'm going to do my bench press session in its entirety. So I'll just do straight bench, work up to a set of 160 for 10. And if that's easy, I'll do 2 sets of 10. And then that'll be my benching for the day, starting with wrist wraps. So the middle of the wrap is in line with the center of the wrist joint, right? So I don't just go underneath the wrist joint, so I've got to go over the wrist joint. So 1, and then I go a little bit down, a little bit down. That's nice and comfortable. You know, technically I don't need it for this lightweight, but I get used to the feeling. So this is what a lot of people do when they're doing their warm-ups and their bench press, and then they get to the top weight, and then they say to me, do you think I should use a wrist wrap for this? And I say, yes, I do think you should have, but you should have warmed up that way so it wasn't unfamiliar by the time you got to the top set. You don't want to make any changes from your last warm-up set to your top set. Anyway, let's have a look at this. Starting at the edge of the bench so that when I lay down, I don't bump my head on the barbell. Okay, so that's cue number 1. Then I slide back, bring my head off the bench so that I can bring my feet back far enough. Okay, so this is the idea. I want to bring my feet back as far as possible, get up on the balls of my feet and push it downwards. Okay, see what I did? I say I'm pushing my feet downwards, my heels downwards. And a lot of people mistake this for, oh, you said you're pushing your heels down. It's like, yeah, I am. They're not touching the ground. Okay, I'm still on the balls of the feet and I'm pushing with downwards pressure and I'm trying to touch the ground even though they won't. But technically what I want is a 45-degree angle for the sole of my foot. Okay, so heels down, slide into position. Okay, now from here, my eyes are behind the bar, grabbing the barbell in my preferred grip, which is wide. So from here, remember the position that I told you with the lat pull down when my shoulder blades are back and down. That's where I squeeze them, okay? Unrack, okay? Unrack, slide into position, heels down, down, up, down, up. So if you look closely, the bar path is not exactly straight down and up. However, when you position your body correctly, which is, you know, arching the upper back, externally rotating this bone, so that tucks the elbow. That makes, so all you think is down and up, and the barbell will naturally take its natural bar path, which is slightly diagonally down towards kind of your sternum, and then back up towards the shoulder. Okay, but you think, and I teach people, down and up. I also, another cue that I don't teach is to tuck the elbows. Once again, it's something that should naturally happen if you're moving correctly. So, of course, objectively, I want the elbows tucked a little bit, but that naturally happens when you pull your shoulder blades back and down. It positions the elbows where they need to go. So I go red, and then red and a half, and then 2 reds, which will be 120. So 70, 95, 120, and I'll go 140 and then 160. So 25 kilo incremental increase, and then 20 kilo incremental increase for the last set. I always put clips on the bench. So this is a safety thing you can do, is not put clips on the bench if you've got no one around, so that if you fail a rep, you can kind of just slide and the weights will fall off. So that's a safety thing. But what I do for safety is I have, someone's reset it, but I have these face savers here. Right, so if I don't get the rep, I can just drop the weight on this. So many times I do a set of anything, or I see people doing sets without the clips on it, and the weights, they slide. And it's like, why do you want it to be uneven like that? Do it properly. Okay, next set, 95 kilograms. Something that you would have heard on this set, because I didn't talk, was that I held my breath from start to finish, which is something that I teach for the bench press only. So when you do a squat, or a deadlift or any exercise where you're lifting heavy weight while you're standing, I never recommend holding your breath the whole way. You hold your breath for each repetition, but then you exhale and repeat. But with the bench press, if I'm doing a set of 10, which is what I'm going for today, I'm going to try and hold my breath for the entire set of 10. And the reason for that is technique. So when I lay on a bench, this technique of pulling my shoulder blades back and down is actually quite an unnatural movement. Right? So when you throw a ball or throw a punch or push, that action here is paired with protraction of the scapula, which is my shoulder blade coming forward. And I'm teaching you to keep your shoulder blades back when you do a heavy bench press. So some people say, that's not natural human movement, so therefore it's bad for your natural, it's called your scapulohumeral rhythm, and it's bad. Well, here's the next thing that's bad. The bench press is not natural because you're trying to push a heavy object while laying on the bench, which stops your shoulder blades from moving naturally, right? So when I'm doing a push-up or an overhead press, my shoulder blades can move freely in space. Whereas a bench press, when I'm laying on the bench, especially the goal is when you're bringing the bar down to your chest, you want your shoulder blades to be moving backwards, 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 backwards. Does that make sense? So like imagine a row. So as I'm bringing the bar down to my chest, I want my shoulder blades to come back. But if you start with natural human movement when you unrack and your shoulder blades are protracted, when you bring the heavy weight down to your chest, your shoulder blades won't be able to get in the position that they need to be, which is retraction in this bottom position. And that's where, in my experience, people tear their pecs or injure their shoulders because they're unable to position themselves in the retracted position when the barbell's on the chest, which is why I say start there. So you start the unrack with the shoulder blades back and down. Now, I started talking about this in relation to breath hold. So what's it got to do with breath hold? Well, all of these actions that we're doing, one action leads to the next. Okay, so when I bring my feet back and heels down, the joint that's moving, it's my hip joint. So this is called hip joint extension. Feet back, heels down, extends my hip, which anteriorly rotates my pelvis. So hip extension paired with anterior pelvic rotation. So when you arch your tail like this, so when you anteriorly rotate your pelvis, feel what happens at your spine. It arches your spine or extends your spine. So the other direction, so posterior tilt is paired with flexion of the spine. Anterior tilt is paired with extension of the spine. So extension is the arch. All right, so feet back, heels down, arches the back. The next thing it does, arching the back, pulls your shoulder blades back and down. So what's the opposite? Rounding the back pulls your shoulder blades forward, so into protraction, whereas extension or arching retracts your scapula. Do you get it? So feet back, heels down, retracts my scapula. It also externally rotates my upper arm bone. Okay, so this is the chain reaction from toe to fingers. Okay, the next thing that's paired with that, so externally rotating the upper arms, tucks the elbows. So when I internally rotate it, that flares the elbows. So external rotation is paired with elbow tucking, which is why I don't teach people to tuck their elbows. It happens naturally. Now, one last thing that ties all that together is breath hold. Okay, so breath hold is paired with elevation of the rib cage. Okay, so same with arching your back is elevating your rib cage. Okay, so elevating the rib cage with my breath hold, big breath, hold your breath, arches and expands your rib cage, which also positions your shoulder blades back and down. Now, what's the opposite of that? Exhalation drops my rib cage, which flexes my spine and protracts my scapula. Okay, so therefore, it doesn't mean if you breathe out, you can't position your back in that way, but it does affect it a little bit, okay, like maybe a millimeter. So if you exhale when you're in this position, it can drop your rib cage and make your shoulder blades lose position by maybe a millimeter. But think about it, how many millimeters do I want you out of position? 0 millimeters, if you're trying to maximize your potential. Okay, so let's have a look at this again. I'm gonna go through all of those steps with the breath hold. Where did I put that clip? And I'm not going to talk because when I do that, when I hold my breath, I can't talk. Sitting at the edge of the bench so I don't bump my head on the barbell. Okay, so I don't just go straight back with my foot position. That's as far back as I can get my feet now. But when I bring my head back, I can bring them back even further. Okay, so that really exaggerates the position. So that's why I say start with your head back. Grab the bar, okay, get your feet in position, okay, and then slide with the heels down. Okay, so eyes behind the barbell, shoulder blades back and down. Now from here, big breath. exhale on completion of the set. Next set, 140. All right. So let's set up my tripod. If you've been following, you'll see that I like to record my sets, my warm-up sets, so that I can make sure that I'm using all the right techniques from start to finish, which I haven't been doing now. Sometimes I get a little bit sidetracked. Still like to see the warm-ups. This will be my last warm-up, 140 kilograms. I'll just do 1 rep. Usually my bench press position doesn't change that much because I've got the bench to help set me up. So squats, it changes a lot. Deadlifts, it changes a lot. There's a lot more room for error. With the bench press, it's easier to hold yourself in position. So the recording, 45 degrees front on, front or behind, it doesn't really matter. So this is front on, so where Alex is, so that's a good angle, I can see everything. Side on, I can't see anything. Completely behind, it's kind of like a two-dimensional image. So when you want to record yourself, 45 degrees, so diagonally front or behind, either one is good. Okay, that was 140. You know, of course it felt easy, but it doesn't really tell me if I got 10 reps on 160 or not. I hope I do. Pre, peri, and post-workout nutrition, salty water. Can't really see. Like, that looked decent, but we don't know until we know. Gotcha. Gotcha. Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. Yeah, 10 reps. Definitely harder than last week's 155 for 10, obviously because it's 5 kilograms heavier, but also my arms are definitely feeling it from the squats. Do I do another set? You can't say that to YouTube and expect anyone in YouTube to say, no, don't do another set. So anyway, we know the answer. It means I've got to do another set. Oh man, I don't even get a chance to sit by myself. This guy's got the camera on me. Ah, fucking hell. Man. Thank you, bro. Yeah, 2 by 10. It's been a while since I've done 2 by 10 actually. I've done 10 reps on 160 a number of times since I've been this body weight. But hold on a second. But not 2 sets of 10. So that deserves another fist bump. Sick. Anyway. All right, so guess what we're doing next? We're doing accessories. All right, so here's a few rules with programming. Okay, write this down and use it. First exercise is the highest priority to achieving your goal. So it's usually the most complex movement of the day. Right, so the opposite of that is you might have heard of principles like pre-exhaust training, where you kind of like do an isolation exercise to fatigue the pecs, and then you do your heavy sets. I don't like that because I'm about performance, and that's going to decrease your performance. So the highest priority to the highest relevance to achieving your goal goes first. Second exercise, the muscles and joint angles that you've neglected in the main movement. Okay, so think about what I did with my bench press. I did pecs and delts and triceps. That's all my pushing muscles. However, when I arch like that, I'm reducing the range of motion, especially with the wide grip in the arch. Great for powerlifting because it allows me to lift a heavier weight. So you want to lever, you want to use leverage, you want to be more efficient. But then it neglects like a full stretch position of the pecs, right? So this is where I make up for that in my secondary exercises. Right, so you may have heard a word being thrown around called exercise redundancy, which is where people do things like flat bench press for the first exercise. Then it's like, what can make my flat bench press even better? Do more pressing with the exact same angle. So they'll go dumbbell press with the same grip and the same angle, and then they'll do machine press with the same grip and the same angle. That's hitting the same muscles from the exact same angle. Those muscles are done now. So what I want to do is hit the muscles and areas that I neglected in the main movement. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So it's going to be an incline dumbbell press. The next thing I like to do with my dumbbells is change the angle of the grip, right? So with the barbell, I have no choice but to use a pronated grip, right? So there's no point coming into a dumbbell and doing a pronated grip dumbbell, especially when I have the option to make the change. With the barbell, I don't have the option to make the change. So I'm going to go, the angle that I didn't hit, which was, that flat was the first exercise, I'm going to go an incline. And then the hand angle is going to be from pronated to neutral. So that's what's up next. Set 1, 10 reps. Did you notice the form was slightly less aggressive to my bench press? I want to smash it. Just get those reps up and down. This one, I like a little bit more control and think about, this is the difference between strength training, or one of the differences between strength training and building muscle. Strength training, the goal is movement patterns, moving away from A to B. Muscle building training, you want to think more about like internal cueing, like thinking about the muscle contraction to overcome the weight. So I'm thinking about my pecs when I do my bodybuilding exercises or my hypertrophy exercises. So that's why I'm not just smashing it. It's nice and controlled, full stretch, and very good form is the goal. So I'll do one more set of that. But now, what I'm gonna do, remember how I spoke about opposing muscle supersets? So now, my performance, or the amount of weight that I lift, isn't as important. So the first set, I didn't want to cause any unnecessary fatigue. That's why I did bench press, waited 8 minutes as a standalone. So bench press, wait 8 minutes, and then bench press again. Now I'll do a dumbbell press, and then I'll wait 4 minutes, and then I'll do the opposing muscles, which are going to be the lat pull down that I warmed up on. Uh, 15 reps there. I find I do better, I feel my back muscles better when I use a high rep range. It's like bench press, I know it's high reps for everything today, only 10s, but I could do like a 1 to 5 rep range on a bench press, just fine. But I wouldn't do 1 to 5 rep range on a lat pull down. Just wouldn't feel right for many reasons. Usually when you go so heavy, like think about another similar exercise like a pull-up. What do most people look like when they're not strong enough to do high rep pull-ups? When they're doing a pull-up like with 1 to 5 reps, typically, not always, but typically that's where you see kind of like this technique, because they're fighting as hard as they can to get the chin over the bar, because that's one full pull-up, right? But what are you trying to achieve with the pull-up? Are you trying to get your chin over the bar? Good. Well, then you did well. Or are you trying to build a certain set of muscles of your back, which is typically your lats, and then your mid-back muscles, which is your rhomboids and trapezius? Because if you are, then the technique matters. And this whole thing of rounding your shoulders and pulling the chin over the bar, you're not using your mid-back muscles. The mid-back muscles are responsible for pulling the shoulder blades back and down. So when I do pull-ups or pull-downs, I'll always prescribe it with the technique that allows you to bring your shoulder blades back and down with correct technique, which also goes hand in hand with using a higher rep range and lighter loads. So that's why whenever I'm doing a program, I don't always have to, I know I'm doing 10s for my pressing, but you don't have to do 10s for everything. I choose the appropriate rep range for the appropriate exercise. So 15s, I like that for pull-downs. I'm not saying it's the only rep range, it's just what I like to do today. Do one more set of each. Okay, 2 by 10, I'll do another set of that pull downs. And then the next one we're gonna do other muscles that we didn't target. So something I like to do is joint health for the relevant joints. So the first exercise is your highest priority for achieving your goal. Second exercise is whatever you neglected in the main movement, right? So that's incline angle, plus a neutral grip, plus a full range of motion. So the arch is reduced range of motion. So that's much more complete. Same muscles, but it's much more complete now. It's hitting the areas that I neglected in the main movement. Then the third exercise for the day, I like to consider something where we're targeting like joint health for the main acting joints. So the most problematic joint in this picture is the shoulder joint. So elbows are good, not as complex, but shoulder health is something that I love to do on my heavy upper body days. So there's 2 exercises that I like. One is a push pattern, one is a pull pattern. And I'm gonna show you in a minute. So flies are a great exercise. But to be honest with you, I mean, I could include them. But it's like, there's so many great exercises. How many exercises do you want to do in a day? When you're getting stronger, like I'm in the strong end of my phase, the stronger you get, the heavier you lift, the less volume you should be doing, right? So I did 2 sets of 10 on 160. I'm smashed. To be honest with you, if I walked out of the session with just that, it wouldn't make me weaker. Like, that's pretty effective. I could even get stronger and then next week do even better. But, hitting a little bit of accessory exercises, but still, only 2 more sets. So I did 2 sets of 10, 2 sets of 10. And then I'll probably do, 2 or 3 sets of the ancillary exercises. So it's not a lot of sets, but it's a lot of weight. So that's how you calculate volume. It's not just the reps and the sets. You include load. Reps times sets times load. That's known as volume load. And I've accumulated a lot. So yeah, there's so many great exercises. There's pec deck, there's machine exercises, there's cable flies, there's dips. So many great exercises. But where do you stop? I can't do it all in one day, right? So you got to do a good amount, and then I'll use those exercises on another phase. So flies, excellent exercise. Just not today. Last set. Next exercise, shoulder health, and we're gonna do a thing called protraction push-ups. So get this, right? Remember how I told you about the bench press technique that I like to pin my shoulder blades back? Now, so that's a joint angle or a range of motion that I neglected in the main movement, is scapular protraction. So now I'm gonna do that under load. It's one of my favorite shoulder health exercises. It's where you do, normal push-up, but then you focus on that component. So what are the muscles responsible for protraction of the scapula? There are a few, the main one being serratus anterior, which is a muscle that sits under the shoulder blade. It's responsible for protraction of the scapula, but also holding your scapula in place on the rib cage. So the scapula is kind of like a floating bone, moves around freely. So having a strong muscle to support that is very important for overall shoulder health. There's many muscles that attach to it that we've already trained, but serratus anterior is what we've neglected. So now I'm going to show you the protraction push-up. Oof. Protraction push-ups. 20 reps, I can definitely do more than 20 reps of a normal push-up. Good thing about holding the dumbbells is a little bit longer range of motion, better for the stretch position. It's also nicer on the wrists instead of having your hands flat on the floor. So neutral grip, full stretch. Don't just lock out here, lock out there. That's what protraction of the scapula is. That's what I'm neglecting when I pin my shoulder blades back here. And now, I'll do another set of that. Now that's complete strength development in all the muscles of the shoulder for pushing. So there's more muscles of the elbow that push, so triceps. If I was to have a more complete and an absolute complete push session, I would want to include isolation exercises for triceps. But I do that on another day because so much volume from pushing, my triceps are fatigued, and I'm not going to get hugely effective tricep work if I add them. So I like to add triceps at my heavy day, where I do fewer sets of pushing, and then my accessories will be more around the arms. Same with the back. So now we go agonist, antagonist supersets, or non-overlapping supersets. And I'm still going to consider the muscles that I neglected in the main movement. So for my main movement for pulling was a vertical pull. So now I'm going to do a slightly different angle. So we're factoring in non-redundant exercises, right? So I don't want to do more vertical pulling. It's the same thing. Pull downs and a pull up, pretty much the same thing. So now, check this out. So this is one of my favorite. It's a horizontal pull, but it's a shoulder health exercise. So this is a face pull. Tip for you guys with a face pull, do it seated. A lot of people do them standing. Just trust me, try a set standing and then try it seated straight after and watch how much extra weight you've got to be able to shift when you're seated. It's a more stable position and that's the focus. So that exercise, why is it good for shoulder health? Like all pulling exercises, pull downs are good for shoulder health, rows are good for shoulder health, but that hits other muscles that the rows doesn't quite hit. So pulling your elbows back like this, right? This works the middle back muscles in absence of lats. So to get lats, you want to tuck the elbows. So when I bring my upper arm bone above 90 degrees, so that's abducted to 90 degrees, lats are off, right? So when we do rows like up to the neck, if ever you see any of that, that's turning lats off. That's why turning lats off allows me to emphasize my mid-back muscles a little bit better. So it's kind of like rhomboids and middle trapezius. But then, so that's just a face pull to the neck. But then I'm going face pull to the top of the head, which includes an external rotation component, right? So the external rotators, there's three. Two of them are rotator cuff muscles, infraspinatus, teres minor, and then the third one is the posterior or the rear fibers of the deltoid. So it's good to include external rotation. So although I didn't technically internally rotate with my exercises, lats, big internal rotator, so my pull downs, lats, big internal rotator, pecs, another big internal rotator. So they're huge muscles that push and pull, but they also internally rotate the shoulders, which is why balancing that out with strengthening the external rotators is just a nice way to complement the session. So I'm gonna do another set of each, high reps. So don't do that with 5 reps or less, like that's 20 reps. You saw 20 reps on each. I like that rep range. Perfect for those ancillary exercises. Anyway, that's my complete session. I'll write down the program in the description, so if you want to do the same thing, go and do it. It's free. It's a great program and it's very complete. The only muscle that we're not hitting muscles is the triceps and the biceps. So you're thinking, how am I not hitting the triceps? You've done a whole bunch of pushing and then the biceps for the pulling. Well, here's the problem. The long head of the tricep, which is this one here, so that one here, is a biarticular muscle. It crosses 2 joints, right? So one action is elbow joint extension, the other one is shoulder joint extension, right? But when I'm doing a push, it's elbow joint extension with shoulder joint flexion, right? So they're conflicting actions of the long head of the tricep. So therefore, all of your compound pressing exercises aren't very effective for long headed triceps. Same applies to the biceps. So when we do our pull downs, people think, yeah, you're doing back and biceps. Well, they're kind of on, but also not to their greatest extent. It's 2 joints, so they're also biarticular muscles. They're responsible for elbow joint flexion and shoulder joint flexion. Whereas when we're doing a pull, it's elbow flexion and shoulder extension. 2 conflicting actions. So therefore, if all you do is compound exercises for your triceps, like pushing and pulling, you're going to be left with underdeveloped long-headed triceps and underdeveloped biceps. How do we train that? By isolating them. So we fix the shoulder joint while we do our curls, or fix the shoulder joint while we do our extensions. Now, as I said, I'm not doing that today. I'm going to do that on my heavy day because my arms are smashed. I've done so much volume. Anyway, great session. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, leave a comment of what you want to see me do or what you want to learn about from me, and click like, subscribe, all that stuff. Take care, guys.